morning all. Apologies for the delay in the commencement of the classes, and let's get started. ಏನಪ್ಪ ಅಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಬಂದೆ ಹಂಗೆ ಹೇಳ್ಬಿಡು. Okay, so firstly, let me welcome you all to APEC classes, and in the APEC classes you are going to get rapid revision of the subject. Okay, so if you try to study these things on your own, it might take like 7-8 days, but we'll make sure that you'll get the holistic content in 4 to 5 days. Okay, the first thing. Secondly, you are going to get prelims specific value addition. Okay, during the OGP classes we might have discussed a lot of things, but that was with respect to both prelims and mains. Here there are certain key pointers, certain facts which stands to have more value when it comes to prelims. Third thing, whatever the current affairs has happened in the last 1 year, the key personalities in news, the anniversaries of various events, organizations, etc. We'll try to emphasize on those things and we'll try to integrate them into these lectures. So, apart from attending the classes, you don't have to study too many things for modern Indian history. Okay, attending the lectures and revising the content itself is more than sufficient. Fourth point, after every topic is logically completed, we'll take up PYQs. So, what we offer is PYQ practice, and also I will ensure after every topic's completion we will also solve MCQs in real time. At the end of the session you will get some 50 questions from insights, but apart from that, whatever we discuss in the class, I'll also provide MCQs. I'll display the questions on the board, but there is one condition. See, in exam you have approximately 1 minute per question. Okay, considering this factor, we'll also have to add the additional element of pressure plus the UPSC level difficulty. Adding all those things will make sure, the time that I give you is you have to answer the question within 30 seconds while I display it in the classroom. Okay, whether you answer or not, I'll proceed to the next question. So it's up to you. You have to read, comprehend and try to answer the question within 30 seconds. Okay, this is going to be a challenge, but you should learn, you should improvise, you should increase your reading speed and comprehending abilities, without which it is very difficult for you to survive in the examination. Okay, so these are the deliverables which I am planning to give you to through the APEC sessions. And on top of that, you will also receive the revision sheets. The first set of revision sheets are on the way. We'll get it anytime soon. Okay, so I don't know, like whether they are going to give it to you through soft copy or hard copy, but you will get it. Okay, maybe today is the first day, they might give the hard copy only. After that, environmental conservation mode, they might give the soft copy. So whatever the content is going to be the same. I want you to make the best use of the content that is provided. Okay. So again, these sheets will be filled with a lot of pointers. There are no junk statements, there are no sentences, there is no is, was, all those kind of grammar. It will be filled with content end to end. And to remember this content, you have to read, repeatedly read and revise multiple times. With one revision, you are not computers, you will not be able to remember it. Understood? So we'll try to ingest it as much as possible in the class itself, but post-class revisions, there is no alternate to it. So you have to give whatever time that it requires. Okay. So some of you might be having carrying some phobia about history. I'll make sure that it will be eliminated towards the end of our sessions. But for that to happen, your cooperation is very much required. Okay. So you have to set aside all those phobias and you have to sit with me with open mind. You have to receive all the content with confidence and you have to revise with clarity. So that's upon you. Okay. So success doesn't depend on what you do in the 6 hours of class. It depends on what you do after the class. Okay. What to do with this content, what to do with these learnings. That is what determines your success. So just don't assume that by attending the class you are going to become all knowledgeable and this will give you all the weapons to succeed. This is just the starting point. Okay. And a lot of you think just by getting the like content by attending the sessions, you will be able to succeed in the examination. But going into the examination hall with just the content, it is like going into the battlefield with only sword in your hand. No armor, no strategy, only sword in your hand. Will you be able to succeed? You need to have shield, you need to have armor, you need to have a strategy. How to fight, when to fight. Okay. So you need to know your weak areas, you need to know your strong areas. So all these things will together constitute your success. Just the knowledge is one part of the process. Understood? Knowledge without self-analysis, without knowing your weak areas, strong areas, it will not help you. Okay. Let me start with the story of one of my friend. Okay. So we both started our preparation in 2012. We started together. We were roommates. And first prelims he failed. He was from OBC, so he had 9 attempts. First prelims he failed. I cleared the first prelims. But after failing in the first prelims, in the next 8 consistent attempts, he did not fail. He cleared prelims with a very good margin. If the cutoff is like 85, 90, his score always used to be 120, 130. Okay. I asked him, for sake of you all, I asked him. He told, bro, the key here is, the most important thing is, self-analysis. When he solved PYQs, when he solved the mock test, the most important thing he did after solving these tests is self-analysis. He tried to understand his weakness. He tried to understand his strengths, not only subject-wise, okay, and he tried to do the micro mapping of not only the subjects but topics where he went wrong, types of questions, and also the time factor. Okay. The topics where you go wrong, that is also very important. Maybe you are good at economy, but you may not be very good at balance of payment chapter. So you need to know what is your weak area, where you need to be strengthened. Okay. And types of questions, whether it is match the following, one statement, two statement, three statement, reasons and assertions, sorry, statement and assertions, where you are going wrong. Time factor, at what time your focus level will be at the lowest. You'll be sitting in the examination hall for 2 hours. So at what time your focus will be at the lowest. So where you need to be attentive and alert. How to wake up yourself in midst of the examination process. So all these things deserves a lot of importance. And let's say your attention or focus levels are dipping around 1 hour. You are entering into examination hall at 9:30, around 10:30, 10:45. Your focus levels will be at the lowest. Because you don't have the unlimited reserve of energy. You will be entering into hall, examination hall. You have to focus very high. You will be under a lot of pressure and tension. So obviously, the amount of energy utilized will be very high. So within 1 hour, you will be drained out. So how to re-energize yourself? And when you are drained out, you are prone to commit mistakes. And towards the last 15-20 minutes, a lot of people commit a lot of mistakes. Anxiety, adrenaline. You should know how to control anxiety and also adrenaline. Because adrenaline will push you to extremes. It will prompt you to make mistakes. And anxiety. So it can make you too defensive or too aggressive. So you need to know how to control these things. And without self-analysis, you will not know whether you are anxious being or you are aggressive being. Okay? At what time your focus levels are dipping, which topics you are weak at, what is your strength, what is your weakness, where you need to improvise, okay? What type of mistakes you are committing. Without knowing all of this, you will not be able to succeed in this process. Knowledge, as I told you, it is just a sword. And these things formulate a strategy. The Marathas, do you know why they lost in the third battle of Panipat? Why? They were not very used to battling in flat terrains. They are known for guerrilla wars, hilly terrains, forest, jungle warfare. That's okay. So you should know your terrain. You should know your subjects. See, what will be the cutoff? Around 90. Scoring 90 is difficult. To score 90, you need to choose 45 questions that suit your terrain, your areas of strength, the type of questions that suits you. Okay? My friend, he knows when there are two statement questions, one only, two only, both, and none. He knows that he is going to commit a lot of mistakes in this. So until he is very sure of the answer, he is not going to attempt these type of questions. He knows where to control himself. He knows where to unleash himself. Understood? So you should know which type of questions you go wrong, which type of questions you need to control yourself, which type of questions you need to take the risk. Understood? So these are the essential parts of a preparation. Attending the classes, revising the class notes, reading the NCERTs, that is just one part of your preparation. And this is another part. Strategizing your preparation. Okay? So this is something which a lot of aspirants tend to ignore. Okay? You solve the mock test, n number of mock tests, you take the synopsis, but you don't do this analysis. You think synopsis, the content again will help you in the exam. Synopsis is just like another book. Fine. Having n amount of content will not help you. Without this, it is all useless. Okay? If you don't know at what time you should switch to which mode, you should know that. So all these things is the most important constituents of success. Okay? Don't ignore this. And today onwards, whatever mock test you solve, dedicate at least 3 to 4 hours for post-test analysis. It is worth it. The intent is not only to know where you went wrong. Intent is to know why you went wrong. What made you go wrong. Understood? So let's say there is one question about Dadabhai Nauroji, 200th birth anniversary. So maybe you did not know some fact, you went wrong. You assumed something, you went wrong. So after the test, obviously you will get to know what is the right answer. You can update yourself with the content. Okay. But why you went wrong? What was your mindset? What prompted you to go wrong? Okay. If you don't correct your mindset, then in the examination hall, you are prone to commit same set of mistakes. Utilize in not committing the same set of mistakes again. Understood? A wise man always learns from his own mistakes and also from the mistakes of others. If you want to be wise, you should know why you went wrong. Understood? And if you are getting low scores in mock tests, that is not a point of concern. Okay? You should know why you are getting low scores. Post analysis. That forms the key to your success. Okay? Shall we get into the topic? Was it boring? Bhaya aita? Okay. Okay. See, from modern Indian history, there are certain areas from where the questions are asked repeatedly. Okay. Certain key areas, this has a lot of importance. The first, let me tell you the thematic approach to the subject, then we'll get into the subject. First, you should know what is important, what is not, and from which area what type of questions will be asked, and then we will enter into the subject. Obviously, discussing the subject, it is inevitable, we will enter into it. But before that, we'll try to understand the broad nature, the holistic nature of the subject. Okay. Firstly, advent of Europeans. Okay. So, whether it is Portuguese or Dutch or British or French, when did they come to India? They are not going to ask. Okay. So, UPSC now is asking about the less known wars with the native rulers, Battle of Gujarat, Portuguese battling with the Sultan of Gujarat, the Nawab of Gujarat. It is called as Battle of Gujarat. Okay. Portuguese battling with Adil Shah of Bijapur for Goa. And last year there was something in news. Battle of Kolachal. Battle of Kolachal. We'll cover it. But I'm letting you know. These times of less known things. European powers battling with the native Indian rulers. You all know about Battle of Plassey, Battle of Buxar, and some of you might be knowing about Battle of Chinsura, but these are some less known battles about which UPSC will ask. Okay, so this is one thing. And sometimes they can also ask you about location of their factories. Okay, East Coast, West Coast, where were their factories? Okay, fine. And they'll also ask you about their contributions, whether it in terms of press, agricultural crops, or any technology. See, there has been one question which is coming repeatedly, but the genesis of that question, see, which of the following crops are native to India? People think it is agricultural question. I mean, that question is related to agriculture. That question is related to modern India. Because if you know which crops were introduced by the Portuguese, which crops were introduced by the foreigners, you can obviously get to know what were the native crops and what are the crops that are introduced by the foreigners. So this has been one question which has been repeatedly asked in 2025 also, 2024 also. Crops, native crops. Native crops versus foreign crops. Understood? They are not directly asking you this, which of the following crops were introduced by Portuguese. They are directly asking you which of the following crops are not native to India or native to India. They are asking you like that. Understood? So if you know which were introduced by foreigners, you can obviously say that is foreign crop, that is the crop of foreign origin, and these are the crops of Indian origin. So knowing the crops of foreign origin, you can understand it through advent of Europeans. Okay. So this is one topic. And with regard to their wars with the native rulers, the less known wars, as I told you, Battle of Gujarat, Battle for Goa, all these things, Battle of Kolachal, all these things assumes importance. And there are some famous wars. What are the famous wars? Battle of Plassey, Bedara, Buxar. These wars in itself is not very important, but the consequences of this war, Treaty of Allahabad, they stand very important. Okay, these wars, whatever the consequences of this war are there, whether it is political or economic, okay, they'll have a lot of importance. For example, after Battle of Bedara, it was end of Dutch East India Company. This battle marked the end of Dutch East India Company. Okay, 1759, Battle of Bedara. And Battle of Buxar, what was the political consequence? Mughal emperor came under the control of British. What was the economic consequence? Mughal emperor gave Diwani rights to British. That paved the way for land revenue policies of British in India. Understood? So the consequences deserves a lot of importance here. Okay. Secondly, you need to know about the regional powers in India and also the later Mughals. So among the later Mughals, some kings, they are worth remembering. For example, Bahadur Shah. Why? You will understand. Farrukhsiyar. And obviously our OGP students remember Muhammad Shah Rangila very well. Shah Alam, Akbar Shah or Akbar II, and lastly Bahadur Shah Zafar. And with regard to regional powers, you need to know about Marathas. See, they started as a regional power, but they went on to become all India power. Okay, Marathas, their important Peshwas, and wars with British, Anglo-Maratha wars. Similarly, Anglo-Mysore wars, Anglo-Sikh Wars. Okay. So this is one thing. And after that, we'll start with after 1765, you can see the evolution of British rule in India. So in the British era, firstly, you need to be very familiar with their economic policies. And when I say economic policies, I mean the land revenue policy, trade and tariff policy, okay, the taxation system, okay, right. With regard to their administrative policies, you need to know about ICS, judiciary, all these things, civil services, okay. And you also need to know about their political policies. Subsidiary alliance, doctrine of lapse, annexations, etc. Okay. And there is one very important thing. Their constitutional reforms, starting from Regulating Act, Bits India Act, followed by Charter Acts every 20 years, and then Indian Council Acts, and then Government of India Acts, all these things. Okay. Okay. And then In 19th century, it was about reforms where men fought for women. Men fought for equality of women. But in 20th century, the nature of the reforms were different. Women got her voice. Women started demanding for the franchise rights, the contesting rights, and also the equality. Okay. The nature of these set of reforms are different. And this is something what UPSC will test you also. Okay. So 19th century reforms versus 20th century reforms. What were the key areas of 19th century? Key areas, organizations, 20th century, the similar. Okay. And after this, we'll have to enter into the national movement era. National movement. With regard to national movement, the pre-Congress political organizations, its founders, objectives, okay, the chronology, that can be of some interest to UPSC. Okay. And after that, and you also have to know that in 19th century, organizations were defined by the leaders who led it. Organizations were defined by the leaders. Understood? So there were some famous personalities who started the organization. Their organization reflected their ideologies, their beliefs, okay, the values they stand for, etc. In 20th century, these leaders, organizations became very important. For example, INC. If you are a member of INC, you have like all India character, all India thought process. If you are a member of Muslim League, obviously, you talk about protecting the interests of Muslims. If you are a member of Hindu Mahasabha, understood? In 19th century, it is the leaders who define the nature and the characters of the organizations. In 20th century, organizations play a major role. 19th century, personalities play a major role. So you need to know this. 19th century is about personalities because they define the organizations in which they are the members or organizations which they found. Okay. But in 20th century, the nature will be slightly different. Okay. Organizations will become more important than personalities. Okay. And formation of INC, and within INC, as you all know, moderate phase, extremist phase. Okay. So what was their philosophy? Who were their important leaders? What were their political goals or demands? What was their contribution to the national movement? And what were their limitations? Okay. Similarly, we'll study the same with regard to extremists also. Fine. So these are the two different groups working within INC. And it is a common sense that at some point of time, there will be a clash between the two. Okay. That is what is Surat split. And Surat split was not mainly because of the clash between the nationalists. The clash or the differences were engineered by the British. There were roles of viceroys, Curzon, and also Minto. Fine. And there were obviously the ideological differences, all these things. And after the Spurs split, what were its consequences on the national movement? Okay. Short term and long term consequences. Right? And after that, the passive phase followed by Home Rule League. Right? 1908 to 1915 was the passive phase, followed by revival of national movement under Tilak and Annie Besant, HRL. And one of the most important outcomes of HRL was Lucknow Pact and also the August Declaration. And August Declaration was the precursor to, as you all know, Government of India Act 1919. Okay. So, the national movement, in the first phase, we'll cover all these things. We'll cover all these things. And in the second phase, and here we forgot one very important thing. Swadeshi movement. One of the very important contribution of extremists. The first mass movement of Indian freedom struggle. Okay. And after that, in phase 2, we go to Gandhian era. And in Gandhian era, we'll try to cover early Gandhian movements, followed by NCM. Okay. With regard to NCM, we'll try to understand the nature, features, and outcomes of NCM, followed by Swarajist phase. So again, what was their ideology, contribution, and limitation? And in Swarajist phase, we'll also see one very important moment called as anti-Simon agitation. And the outcome of anti-Simon agitation was Nehru Report, followed by Nehru Report. There was Lahore session of INC. And later there was civil disobedience movement. Okay. Civil disobedience movement. It is also called as salt satyagraha, which has been asked in PYQs. Name itself. The nature, the features, and the outcome. Outcome means we are talking about both positive and limitations. We'll cover that. And after that, the most important consequence was Gandhi-Irwin Pact and also Karachi resolutions. Gandhi-Irwin Pact and also Karachi resolutions. Okay. And as per Gandhi-Irwin Pact, Gandhi will go to attend second roundtable conference. Okay. Second roundtable conference. You all know whether he fails or succeeds. And after the failure of the second roundtable conference, he'll give call for second phase of CDM. Second phase of CDM. And followed by all these things, there will be communal award, Pune Pact, and Government of India Act 1935. Most important factor or feature will be provincial autonomy. And Britishers will announce elections. With regard to election debates, whether we should contest or not, multiple sessions of INC will be held. And finally, INC will form the government. 28-month rule of INC. And after this, we'll start with phase 3. That is the Second World War and India. Okay. There, we'll try to cover opinions of important Indian leaders and there were different promises by the British, various levels. August offer, it failed to satisfy our demands, followed by individual satyagraha. That was followed by Krebs mission. And when everything failed, Indians were deeply dissatisfied. That led to launch of Quit India movement. It is also called as August Kranti. Okay. And when there was deep disunity among Indians, there were efforts to bring back and unite the different political forces. Okay. Fine. And the most important part of phase 3 was INA and Royal Indian Navy reboot. Okay. INA and Royal Indian Navy reboot. And its important consequence was Cabinet Mission Plan, 1946. Followed by Direct Action Plan of Jinnah. And the communal rights increased. The British PM, Clement Attlee, told, okay, there will be Pakistan. And later, the Viceroy Mountbatten put forward his plan, the final plan, called as Mountbatten Plan. Okay. Done. And now, after this, we'll go to phase 4, where we'll meet two different phases of revolutionaries, their ideologies, reasons for emergence, important events, their contributions and limitations. And we'll also see some important sessions of INC. Who were the presidents? What were its outcomes? Okay. And some important groups and organizations, important groups and organizations. And forgot to add one small point here. Their educational policies. Okay. And you can also add socio-religious reforms policies. Means Britishers tried to reform Indian society through many legislations. So what were those legislations? What were the key features? What was the reason? What was the outcome? Whether we welcomed it or opposed it? All these things. This towards the end of this, we'll arrive at this page. Okay. So anything else you want me to discuss? Revolt of 1857. Key personalities, reasons, you already know. The key personalities we'll discuss. Anything else? That's all. Later, you shouldn't say that you skipped this, because it is with your consensus that I'm moving forward. Will we start? Check your groups whether the handouts are posted, respective APEC groups. And before going forward, let us prioritize. Let us prioritize these topics. Whatever things we listed, no, whatever themes we listed, we'll try to prioritize. Okay. The advent of Europeans. There might be one question every alternative year. Okay. So we can call it as priority 2, secondary priority. And with regard to this, in recent times, no questions. Regional powers, rivalry, wars, all these things, no question. But still we will take it up. Tertiary priority or level 3. Okay. And here, economic policies, very high priority area. Constitutional reforms, very high priority area. Almost every year there will be questions. Okay. So, others, you can consider them as tertiary priority. Here and there might be some questions with regard to doctrine of lapse or annexation policies, all these things. Here and there will be one question. High priority will be economic policies and the constitutional reforms. Other things are of tertiary priority. And with regard to peasant and tribal revolts, secondary priority. There will be questions based on some terminology, some important revolts and all. Okay. And then with regard to reforms, you can call it as high priority area, because every year there will be at least one question based on reforms. Okay. For some years, UPSC gave more importance to 20th century reforms. Now they are going back to 19th century reforms. Some years, like the contributions of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, Vittal Ramji Shinde, all these things, they became very important. Depressed classes mission, Vaikom Satyagraha, SNDP, Periyar. Okay, they assume a lot of importance. And now UPSC is going back to 19th century reforms. Indicator is the present year mains, 2025 mains. 15 marker question on Jyotiba Phule. Understood? So, one, maybe because there was a controversial movie based on his life, that might have inspired UPSC. Secondly, in 24 and 25 also you can find questions from 19th century reforms. So going by that trend, 26 also it should continue, but however, we'll try to cover both of it as top priority one. So any question from this? And again, remember, this is an ocean. This is a ocean, the reforms. So whatever things I can help you, I'll help you. But no matter how much you study, there will be one organization, one personality, one book, one newspaper that might be out of our knowledge. And if that appears, please don't blame me. You just have to look at your handouts. That will show you the kind of efforts that I put into these classes. Okay. So I'll show you like what all needed, what are the prioritization areas, all these things. And again, Swadeshi movement, top priority. Swadeshi movement, top priority. And all the other things mentioned in this, except for Government of India Act 1919, secondary priority. UPSC won't ask you direct question on moderates, extremists, HRL and all. Even if they ask, I got it under secondary priority, we'll cover it. Not an issue. Okay. And now, as always, Gandhian era, high priority area. And even this, phase 3 also, high priority area. Phase 4, secondary priority. I'm expecting one question on second phase of revolutionaries. Because 1920s was the era of their prominence. That was the time in which they were mostly active. Whether it was Kakori, train robbery, Pirosha, Kotla meet, all these things, it happened in 1920s. And whatever happened in 1920s, 2020s, we are in 100th anniversary. You can assume that revolutionaries, that is second phase of revolutionaries, will assume a lot of importance. And even Anushilan Samiti, 125th anniversary, Anushilan Samiti. So who are the founders? All these things will cover. But you should remember, this is not basic classes. I will not be explaining into the concepts. Okay. If there are some difficult concepts, I'll try to explain, but the basic things I expect you to know. Understood? This is not substitute to the foundational classes that you attend. So the APEC classes are meant for someone who has already attended the basic classes and is sitting here with the intent of revision plus prelim specific value addition and for certain strategies that can help you in the prelims. This is not substitute to the basic classes. Here there will be fast forward revision. Understood? If you have any doubts, you can raise the hands, but don't expect every minute detail to be covered here. Whatever that is important from prelims point of view, I'll tell you. Stories, all those things will not be here. So because if I add stories into this will have to be stressed to 25 classes. Understood? 25 classes for modern India means within 25 sessions, I think almost 60% of your APEC syllabus will be over within 25 classes, 25 sessions. Okay. So now we'll start with, from where shall we start? Economic policies. Shall we start with economic policies or later Mughals? Later Mughals. Okay. See, whatever I say, I want you to write it down. Right? If you don't know it, write it down. If you know it, keep quiet, not an issue. So, the medieval classes will get you the Mughal Empire covered till 1707. Medieval history classes. Till the tenure of Aurangzeb, it will be covered under medieval Indian history. Now, after the death of Aurangzeb, is from where our syllabus actually starts. So, let me stick to it. Later Mughals. Firstly, write down Bahadur Shah. Bahadur Shah. Shah-e-Bekabar. Shah-e-Bekabar. Because there was reckless grants of Jagirs. Jagir means land grant, giving away the land as a prize, etc. Okay. There was neglect of financial administration, the revenue collection, all these things. Because the emperor was busy in entertainment. His age was 63 when he became the emperor. At the age of 63, understood? It is the age of retirement life. You don't want headaches. You don't want to do innovation. You don't want to take risk. You don't want to fight the war and expand the empire. You want to enjoy whatever is there. Okay? So, secondly, policy of peaceful coexistence. Policy of peaceful coexistence. See, he settled the disputes with Marathas, in bracket, Balaji Vishwanath, Peshwa Balaji Vishwanath, by releasing Chhatrapati Shahu, grandson of Shivaji, by releasing grandson of Shivaji, Chhatrapati Shahu, which charts by decreasing the revenue rates in the Doab region, and which Rajputs, especially Raja Jai Singh and Ajit Singh. Raja Jai Singh and Ajit Singh. Okay. So, after his death, there was instability, and then wars of succession. Right on. See, firstly, these are the reasons for the decline of Mughals. Okay, and this is the essence of the later Mughal rule. First point, there was wars of succession. There was wars of succession. After every king died, there were multiple aspirants for the positions. They fought amongst themselves to become the king. That weakened the. There was lack of unity among the courtiers. Okay, there were Persians, Afghans, Sayyids, etc. There was lack of unity among the courtiers. There were a lot of factionalism. Okay, and that weakened them. There was lack of unity. Secondly, inefficient rulers. Okay, so most of the rulers of later Mughal era, they were inefficient in administration, and because of their inefficiency, you can see they neglected the defense and also the financial administration. There was Jagirdari crisis. There was reckless grants of Jagirs. Okay, so they neglected the revenue administration. And who gave Diwani rights to British? Shah Alam. You are giving up the source of your revenue to a foreigner. Okay. And there was rise of kingmakers. When the king is weak, there will be rise of kingmakers. There are three important kingmakers. One is Zulfikar Khan, another one is Sayyid brothers, and then there was one more person called as Imadul Mulk. Imadul Mulk, 1750s. Sayyid brothers till 1720. Zulfikar Khan, 1713. Okay, and because of the neglect of defense, that encouraged the foreigners to invade India. Because earlier the army of Mughals was very strong, their defense was very strong, others were scared of invading India. But now, when the defense is weak, obviously that will encourage the foreigners to invade India. The Persians, Nadir Shah, he looted India multiple times, and later Ahmad Shah Abdali, the Afghans, he looted India multiple times. Okay, and after that there were internal decays. There was fragmentation of empire. Mughal empire got broke down into multiple pieces. Hyderabad declared independence. Awadh declared independence. Bengal declared independence. They started ruling their areas. The Nawabs of this area started ruling their areas independently. Okay, and as a result of all these things, there were two important consequences. And the consequence was, one, rise of Marathas and rise of foreign powers. Rise of Marathas and rise of foreign powers. Okay. So now, these reasons, these are the reasons for the downfall of Mughals. What led to their downfall? Now, I'll give you a lot of examples. First, I gave you about Bahadur Shah. Now, write down. In margin or somewhere, underline and write it. Most of the later Mughal rulers abolished. Most of the later Mughal rulers abolished Jizya. Religious tax imposed on non-Muslims. Jizya. J-E or J-A-Z-I-Y-A. Religious tax imposed on non-Muslims. If you are not a Muslim, then you have to pay a tax. That is Jizya. Okay. Most of the later Mughal rulers, they were not in favor of this, they abolished this. In bracket, for example, Jahandar Shah, Farrukhsiyar. Okay. Now, Farrukhsiyar. Head on the Mughal Emperor, Farrukhsiyar. Farrukhsiyar. First point. Magna Carta of Maratha dominion in India. Magna Carta of Maratha dominion in India. In bracket, he gave right to collect South means South and Sardesh Mukhi. South and Sardesh Mukhi. He gave the right to collect South and Sardesh Mukhi to Marathas in Deccan region. He gave the right to collect South and Sardesh Mukhi to Marathas in the Deccan region. Okay. What is Chowth? 1/4 of the land produce collected as revenue. Marathas have to hand it over to Mughals. Sardesh Mukhi means they will collect additional 1/10. Okay. Imagine I am the farmer. I am cultivating 100 kg. So I have to give 25 kg as land revenue, Chowth, and additional 10 kg I have to give to Marathas as Sardesh Mukhi. Marathas will collect both of it, but Chowth they will hand it over to Mughals. Sardesh Mukhi they will keep it with themselves. 25% they will give it to Mughals, 10% they will keep it with themselves. Okay. So this is what you have to remember. And who gave this permission to Marathas? Farrukhsiyar. Second point. Magna Carta of British trade in India. Magna Carta of British trade in India. Would I have fair and right? Allowed customs free trade. Only for British. In Bihar, Bengal and Orissa region. In Bihar, Bengal and Orissa region. Plus the right to issue dastaks. Right to issue dastaks for official trade. Dastak means free trade passes. Right to issue dastaks for official trade. Dastaks means free trade passes. Next point. Puppet in the hands of Syed brothers. Puppet in the hands of Syed brothers and was killed by them. Puppet in the hands of Syed brothers and was killed by them. Next is Rangila, Muhammad Shah Rangila, 1719 to 1748. Muhammad Shah Rangila. Okay. Right on. Emergence of independent states. Emergence of independent states and fragmentation of Mughal Empire. Emergence of independent states and fragmentation of Mughal Empire. Earlier, I don't know, Hyderabad, Awadh, Bengal, they all got separated during the times of Rangila. Second point, Bajirao invaded Delhi. Bajirao invaded Delhi, 1737. Bajirao invaded Delhi. Next point, severe neglect of frontier defense. Severe neglect of frontier defense. Frontier means border. Frontier defense. Typhon and right. Repeated invasions by Nadir Shah of Persia and Ahmad Shah Abdali. Ahmad Shah Abdali, in bracket, founder of Durrani Empire. Founder of Durrani Empire. Close the bracket. Of Afghanistan. Okay. Patronizer of fine arts and dance, in bracket Kathak. Patronizer of fine arts and dance. One thing did by Rangila, one good thing, in bracket Kathak. Okay. So later, okay, Imadul Mulk become, when after his death, Ahmad Shah, 1848 to 1854, succeeded. Ahmad Shah succeeded. But Imad ul Mulk was a kingmaker. Emerged as a kingmaker. And after that, Shah Alam. Right? Shah Alam. Right now. Exiled from Delhi. In bracket, emperor without empire. Exiled from Delhi, in bracket, emperor without empire. Okay. Battle of Buxar and Treaty of Allahabad. Battle of Buxar and Treaty of Allahabad, in bracket, gave Diwani rights to British. Gave Diwani rights to British. And after that, I know. Next point. Kept under house arrest by British. Comma. rescued and reinstated, rescued and reinstated on throne by Marathas. Rescued and reinstated on throne by Marathas. (1771). Right. Therefore, under Maratha influence. Therefore, under Maratha influence. It was always under Maratha influence. Next point. Abducted. Abducted means kidnapped. He was not a kid now, therefore we can't use the word kidnap. Abducted and blinded by Rohilla leader Ghulam Qadir. Rohilla leader Ghulam Qadir. Rohilla leader Ghulam Qadir. Come on. Again rescued and reinstated by Marathas. Again rescued and reinstated by Marathas. Okay. Next point. First Mughal ruler to receive pension from British. First Mughal ruler to receive pension from British. And first blind Mughal emperor. First Mughal ruler to receive pension from British and first blind Mughal emperor. First blind Mughal emperor. So he ruled from 1759 to 1806. In some sources it is 1760, some sources it is 1759. So broadly let us agree upon 1759. 1759 to 1806, almost 50 years he ruled. After that, Akbar Shah. Akbar Shah II. And always remember this throughout the history. And even today, part 2 will be disappointing. Part 2 of anything will be disappointing. Because part 1 will set a lot of expectations. And part 2 cannot live up to it. Akbar I, great. Considered as one of the greatest emperors India has ever seen. Akbar II. Bajirao I, great. Bajirao II, waste. Like that. Part 1 is always great. Part 2, most of the times gone. Okay. So now, Akbar Shah II. Right on. There are only two things worth remembering about him. Gave title Raja. Gave the title Raja to Ram Mohan Rai. Gave the title Raja to Ram Mohan Rai. Okay. And at some point of time, Britishers stopped his pension. So what he did, he took the help of Ram Mohan Rai to fight his case. And in return for that, he gave the title Raja to Ram Mohan Rai. Therefore, Ram Mohan Rai is still now famous as Raja Ram Mohan Rai. That's true. So Raja was not the name given by his parents, it is the title given by Akbar Shah II. Second point, Britishers stopped printing currency in his name. This is not his achievement, but there is nothing else to write, so we'll write this down. Britishers stopped printing currency in his name. Who was the central authority of India? Mughals. So Indian currency was printed in the name of Mughals. But during the times of Akbar II, Britishers realized Mughals are just puppets, and mentally Britishers had decided to set aside Mughal rule and take over everything on. Understood? Therefore, they stopped printing the currency in his name. This is one indication No charge. British out. Fine. Next one. So, I mean, he ruled for 31 years, 1806 to 1837. 1806 to 1837. Okay. So he lost all the power. Mughal power was remained just symbolic in nature. Bahadur Shah Zafar, last one, right down. Bahadur Shah Zafar, 1837 to 1857. 1837 to 1857. Last Mughal emperor. Last Mughal emperor. And proclaimed as a leader. And proclaimed as a leader. By the soldiers. And many rulers during the revolt of 1857. Proclaimed as Emperor of India by the soldiers. Proclaimed as the Emperor of India by the soldiers and many rulers during the revolt of 1857. Okay. Last point. He was a poet. Poet. Put hyphen and write. Wrote Kuliyat-e Zafar. Kuliyat-e Zafar. Collection of poems. Kuliyat-e Zafar. And Zafar was his pen name. Ankitanama. Kavyanama, Ankitanama, pen name. Last point. He was exiled to Rangoon. He was exiled to Rangoon after the revolt of 1857. Exiled to Rangoon. Rangoon means Burma, Myanmar, after the revolt of 1857. Okay. This is the story of later Mughals. Right. So now, you want Marathas? Helrappa. You are starting with low priority things, alva? Right? Marathas. What was the reason for the rise of Marathas? Reason for the rise of Marathas? Already ಕೊಟ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೀನಿ. Right on. Leadership. I mean efficient leadership. Efficient leadership. Economic policies. Formation of confederacy. Formation of confederacy. Effective use of geography. Effective use of geography and military capabilities. Effective use of geography and military capabilities. Last point, decline of Mughals. Decline of Mughals. Okay. So these were the reasons why they started as a regional power but emerged as an all India power. Okay. See, while writing about Shah Alam, you wrote down twice. Shah Alam was rescued twice by Marathas and was instated on the throne by Marathas. Shah Alam was almost completely under the shadow of Marathas. He was the Mughal emperor, but he was under the control of Marathas. So imagine, Marathas were the kingmakers of that time. How strong they were. So what made Marathas so strong? These are the points. Okay. So now I'll give examples while I discuss the Peshwas. I have written the generic points and I'll exaggerate these points and explain these points with the help of examples that I'm going to give you now. Okay. So these are, is the board visible to you? Balaji Vishwanath, right on. Balaji Vishwanath, put hyphen and write. Secure, Chauth and Sardesh Mukhi. Secure, Chauth and Sardesh Mukhi. Convinced, Syed brothers. Secured, Chauth and Sardesh Mukhi. Convinced, Syed brothers. Therefore, economic stability. Therefore, economic stability. One constant source of income is there for you. That is it. That itself is economic stability, no? When Marathas are neglecting the, Mughals are neglecting the revenue administration, Marathas are getting the constant source of income. So they are neglecting, they are declining. You are getting the constant source of income and you are rising. The map is like this. Mughals, they were in the peak of power. They neglected the revenue administration. That is leading to their decline. Marathas, they were just the regional power. Mughals were all India power. Marathas were just regional power. They got a secure source of income, a stable source of income. They utilized it effectively, built their empire strongly. Okay. So they started rising. Why? See, it all depends on economy. How you utilize the resources. And Marathas were very good at utilizing the resources. They got that 10%, no? That 10% became their lifeline. That 10% became their backbone. Mughals were getting 25%. But weak rulers, they did not know how to utilize the vast amount of resources they had. Understood? Because they were saturated. Weak rulers. They were under the control of kingmakers. They were diverted. For example, Rangila, wine and women. That's all. Empire, progress, administration did not matter to them. So this was the thing. Okay. So Balaji Vishwanath, he convinced Syed brothers, got Chauth and Sardesh Mukhi, a stable source of income. Therefore, economic stability. So that was the foundational stone. Using that economic stability, they built their empire, they built their military, everything. So followed by him, it was Bajirao. 1720 to 40. Okay. Below his name, write down. Position of Peshwa was not hereditary. Was not hereditary. Come on. They served as prime ministers under Chhatrapatis. They served as prime ministers under Chhatrapatis. Chhatrapati means family of Shivaji Maharaj. Okay. But after Bajirao's times, it became hereditary. The position of Peshwa became hereditary. Okay. And and Peshwas became the real power. Peshwas became the real power. While Chhatrapatis became nominal power. Chhatrapatis remained as nominal power. Okay. See, before Bajirao, during and after Bajirao, there were two important changes. First thing, position of Peshwa. It was not hereditary. Okay, it was mainly dependent on your skills, talent, everything. Because king will be hereditary, but position of prime minister it will change now. Okay, but now it became hereditary. Bajirao himself was the son of Balaji Vishwanath, and after Bajirao it will be Balaji Bajirao. The position will become hereditary. And with regard to position of Chhatrapati, before Bajirao, they were the real rulers, but during the times of Bajirao, they became nominal. Peshwas became very powerful. They took all the power. Just like we can compare, Peshwa now became like PM and Chhatrapatis became like president. Understood? Like that. They were the real power. They were the nominal powers. That's all. This transformation majorly happened during the times of Bajirao. Okay. Position started falling. The position of Chhatrapati. Right. In bracket, I want you to find out about something called as, write on, Sangola Agreement. Try to know. Not very important for exam, but if you are curious, you can find out. So, Bajirao formed Maratha Confederacy. Peshwas of Pune, Holkars of Indore, Scindias of Gwalior, Bhosles of Nagpur, and Gaikwads of Baroda. Okay. So, there was unity leading to stability, and stability contributing to their rise. Okay. So, below Bajirao, write down efficient administrative system. Efficient administrative system. Next point, raided Delhi RAIDED, raided Delhi 1737. Raided Delhi in 1737. Fine. After him, Balaji Bajirao, 1740 to 1761. Balaji Bajirao. Balaji Bajirao, 1740 to 1761. Peak of Maratha Empire. Peak of Maratha Empire. In bracket, spread from Cuttack in Orissa to Attock in Pakistan. Cuttack in Orissa to Attock in Pakistan. Spread from Cuttack in Orissa to Attock in Pakistan. Now Maratha Empire got spread till northwest frontier province. Beyond Delhi. That was a great achievement. Okay. Next point. Defeat in Third Battle of Panipat. Defeat in Third Battle of Panipat, 1761. Against whom? Ahmad Shah Abdali. Ahmad Shah Abdali or Ahmad Shah Durrani, both are fine. Defeat in Third Battle of Panipat against Ahmad Shah Abdali or Ahmad Shah Durrani. Okay. In bracket, forces were led by Sadashivrao Bhau. Maratha forces were led by Sadashivrao Bhau. UPSC can try to confuse you. Balaji Bajirao himself led the forces. And all? No. The forces were led by Sadashivrao Bhau. So, next one. Peshwa Madhavrao. 1761 to 1772. Revival of Marathas. Revival of Marathas and reclamation of lost territories. Revival of Marathas and reclamation of lost territories. In bracket, they also call it as Great Resurgence of Marathas. Great Resurgence of Marathas. They were defeated very badly. Third Battle of Panipat. They rose back into dominance again. This is called as Great Resurgence of Marathas. It happened during the times of Madhavrao. Okay. Next, write down. After Madhavrao, there was internal crisis, decay, and instability among Marathas. Internal crisis, decay, and instability among Marathas. Okay. Next point. Narayan Rao, 1772 to 1774. Narayan Rao, 1772 to 1774. Killed by Raghunath Rao. Killed by Raghunath Rao. In bracket, root cause of First Anglo-Maratha War. Root cause of First Anglo-Maratha War. Close the bracket. Killed by Raghunath Rao, comma. He declared himself as Peshwa. He declared himself as Peshwa. And when he was ousted from the position, and when he was ousted means removed, ousted from the position by Bara boys. Spelling is on the board. Bara boys. 12 brothers. Bara boys. In bracket. Ministers of Peshwa. Ministers of Peshwa. Led by Prime Minister Nana Fadnavis. He went to British and signed Treaty of Surat. He went to British and signed Treaty of Surat. Okay. Right on. Next, Madhavrao II. Madhavrao II. Infant Peshwa. Infant Peshwa. Was 1 year old when he became the Peshwa. Infant Peshwa. Therefore, power remained in the hands of Nana Fadnavis and Bara boys. Infant Peshwa. Therefore, power remained in the hands of Nana Fadnavis and the Bara boys. Next point. Bajirao II. 1796 to 1818. Bajirao II. 1796 to 1818. 1818. Internal rivalry with Holkars. Internal rivalry with Yashwantrao Holkar. Yashwantrao Holkar. Holkars of Indore. Internal rivalry with Yashwantrao Holkar. Right. Comma. Breakup of Confederacy. Breakup of Confederacy. Breakup hurts. Breakup of Confederacy. See, Bajirao took so much efforts in forming the Confederacy, and who destroyed it? Bajirao II. Okay. Next point. Signed Treaty of Bassein. With British in 1802, and thereby subscribed to Subsidiary Alliance, and thereby subscribed to Subsidiary Alliance. Comma. Later refused to oblige. Later refused to oblige, leading to Second Anglo-Maratha War. Leading to Second Anglo-Maratha War. Later refused to oblige, OBLIGE, leading to Second Anglo-Maratha War, in bracket 1803 to 1805. During which entire Maratha Confederacy and their territories came under the control of British. Entire Maratha confederacies and their territories came under British control. Last point. Maratha support to Pindaris. Maratha support to Pindaris in bracket. Unofficial army of Marathas. Unofficial army of Marathas. Known for guerrilla tactics. Known for guerrilla tactics. Attacked numerous British forts and factories. Attacked numerous British forts and factories. Thereby triggering Third Anglo-Maratha War. Thereby triggering the Third Anglo-Maratha War. 1817 to 1818. 1817, 1818. Let's stop. Next point. British declared Bajirao II as last Peshwa. Bajirao II as last Peshwa and shifted him to Bitur near Kanpur. Shifted him to Bitur near Kanpur and also pensioned him. Bitur near Kanpur and also pensioned him. Okay. So this is the story of Marathas, their important Peshwas, 3 wars. So I'll give you the tables. So Anglo-Maratha Wars, Anglo-Mysore Wars. I'll give you the tables. So from when to when it happened, who fought, what was the reason, what was the outcome. So if you just read the table, it will be sufficient. Because UPSC is not going to ask you which war was fought when, who fought the war, what was the consequence, who died in the war, how many soldiers died, how many horses died. They are not bothered. So you don't have to worry. Okay. So write down about subsidiary alliance. This is very important. And similarly with regard to Anglo-Mysore War also, I will give you the handout which summarizes the 4 Anglo-Mysore Wars, starting from first war 1767 to 69 and going up to 1799, the 4th Anglo-Mysore War. Okay, I will give you the table. So reading the table itself will make you familiar with it. And UPSC will not ask you about the dates of the wars, who fought in the wars, all those things they are not going to ask. But knowing is fine. So I will give you the table. Anglo-Maratha Wars and Anglo-Mysore Wars. Both the tables I will give you. And so you just have to glance it multiple times so that it remains as a part of your memory. Okay. So subsidiary alliance, please write down. Devised by Governor General Wellesley. Devised by Governor General Wellesley. In bracket 1798. Major instrument of political conquest. Major instrument of political conquest. See, without waging war, they brought hundreds of kings under their control. It was a major instrument. Important, full stop. Important features. First point. Native ruler. Native ruler means Indian ruler. Whoever signs the agreement, no? Indian ruler was forced to downsize downsize means reduce the size, the army, downsize the army. Second point, mutual assistance, mutual assistance in case of attack by the third party. Third point, British army would be stationed in the territory of the native ruler. British army would be stationed in the territory of the native ruler. If you sign this agreement, they will keep their army in your territory. And Indian king, right on, and the Indian ruler has to take care of its maintenance. And the Indian ruler has to take care of its maintenance and expenses. Has to take care of its maintenance and expenses. Next point. Payment of annual tribute. Kappakanike. Payment of annual tribute to British. Okay. Next point. Appointment of British resident. Appointment of British resident in the court of the native ruler. British resident in the court of the native ruler. In bracket, promise of non-interference in administration. Promise of non-interference in administration. And promises were meant to be broken. Okay. Next point. Native ruler can't employ any foreigner in his service. Can't employ any foreigner in his service. In bracket, except British. You can't employ any foreigner in your service except British. Next point. Native ruler has to obtain the consent of British. Has to obtain the consent of British while dealing with other Indian rulers. While dealing with other Indian rulers. If you want to meet other Indian kings, you want to talk to them, you want to go on a trip with them, you have to inform British and obtain the permission. Okay. So these were the rules. Next point. Nizam of Hyderabad. Nizam of Hyderabad was the first Indian ruler to sign it. Nizam of Hyderabad was the first Indian ruler to sign it. In bracket 1798, followed by Wadayars of Mysore. Followed by Wadayars of Mysore. 1799. Followed by Wadayars of Mysore. 1799. After the death of Tipu Sultan. In bracket, after the death of Tipu Sultan. Okay. So now we are done with later Mughals, Marathas, we are done with this part, right? Okay. So now, this was boring. You only chose it. You are accountable, not me. I would have chosen a different sequence. You chose it, so it was boring. Shall I choose the topic now? So now, this one, it is worth memorization. It will be handout. Just read it. Okay, when did they come? Portuguese came to India in 1498. Vasco da Gama put his right leg in Cochin, entered India, took handful of sand. India, we are going to conquer you. Established a factory, all these things like. Read it. I'll give you the handout, read it. I am not going to discuss that. Fine. So this will be handout. But this part, I will say now. We will discuss that. But other parts, like when did they come, where did they set up the factory, so all these things, handouts. This part I am going to discuss now. Battle of Buxar, Battle of Plassey, Battle of Chinsura, we are going to discuss now. Okay. So now, Battle of Plassey, please write down. Battle of Plassey. (1757). So it was between whom? British and Nawab of Bengal, Siraj-ud-Dawla. Okay. Reasons. Misuse of dastaks. Dastak means free trade passes given only for official purpose, but British were misusing it. Okay. Construction of fort and import of weapons. Okay. Attitude of Siraj-ud-Dawla. Sorry, anti-European attitude of Siraj-ud-Dawla. He never trusted any foreigners. Anti-European mindset or attitude of Siraj-ud-Dawla. And some books mention black hole tragedy, but it is a nonsense. There was no such thing. That was a episode that was created by the European historians to justify why they attacked and killed Siraj-ud-Dawla. Moral justification. For that purpose, they created that episode. There was no such thing. Okay. So if 200 of them died, how did Robert Clive escape? Did he have an extra lunch? Was he carrying an oxygen cylinder? If everybody died out of suffocation in that small room. How did Robert Clive escape? That was a nonsense. So let's ignore that. Okay. And the outcome. Right on. Betrayal of Mir Jafar, the commander in chief. Death of Siraj-ud-Dawla. And Mir Jafar became puppet Nawab. Mir Jafar became the puppet Nawab. Okay. So now we'll go to Battle of Chinsura or Bedara, 1759. It was between Bengal and Dutch versus British East India Company. Bengal, the Nawab of Bengal, Mir Jafar, plus Dutch East India Company, double combined army versus British East India Company. Reasons: administrative interference by British, severe misuse of, continued misuse of dastaks, administrative interference by British East India Company officials, continued misuse of dastaks, leading to severe loss of revenue. So, what was the outcome? It was end of Dutch East India Company in India. End of Dutch East India Company in India. Why Mir Jafar lost the war? Because of betrayal of Mir Qasim, his commander-in-chief, brother-in-law. And Mir Qasim was made the puppet Nawab after this war. Okay. In similar way, we'll discuss the next most important battle, that is Battle of Buxar. Now Mir Qasim was severely dissatisfied. So what did he do? He created one alliance. Mir Qasim, Nawab of Bengal, Sujah-ud-Dawla, Nawab of Awadh, plus Shah Alam, emperor without empire. Okay, all three versus British East India Company. What was the reason? Again, misuse of dastak, loss of revenue, administrative interference, Fear of British conquest. Now Bengal is captured by British. Awadh next in the line. So Awadh got scared. Have to do something. Fine. And Mir Qasim abolished customs duty on all traders in Bengal. They abolished the customs duty on all traders in Bengal. Therefore, no advantage for British. Earlier, who was the only one who had that exemption? British. Dastaks. They had the pass. They can show the pass and not pay the revenue. I mean the customs tax. But now he abolished tax on everyone. So Britishers have no advantage now. Okay. Mir Qasim not only abolished that, shifted the capital from Calcutta. Shifted the capital away from Calcutta. Calcutta is a trade city. It is a port city. Lot of foreigners will come. More interference. Therefore, he shifted it away from Calcutta to decrease the administrative interference. Okay. And to trigger British, he made an alliance with French. Took their help in training their army, imported their weapons, everything. Outcome, Mir Qasim was defeated. Mir Jafar was made the Nawab again. Treaty of Allahabad. Mughal Emperor Shah Alam gave Diwani rights to British, and Britishers gave rupees 27 lakh per annum to Mughal Emperor. Understood? So this is the consequence. And this war laid the foundation of British rule in India, and we can see the genesis, the birth of British revenue system in India, because now they will be collecting the land revenue. So you can see the birth of the various types of land revenue policies in India. Okay, foundations of British rule, birth of various land revenue policies in India. Okay, birth of various types of land revenue policies in India. Now, are we done with this? So this is what is needed. No need of any story and all now. This is what is needed. Carnatic Wars. It was mainly fought between British and French in India, especially in South India. British versus French, East India companies in southern India. Okay, it was a series of conflicts. First war, 1746 to 48. The reason was Austrian War of Succession. Austrian War of Succession. Okay. And British attack on French trading ships in India. British attack on French trading ships in India. And the outcome was very simple. Battle of Fort Saint-Thome. French dominated in this battle, and in Europe, Treaty of Aix-la-Chapelle was signed. Therefore, both British and French agreed to maintain peace and focus on trade. Agreed to maintain peace and focus on trade. Okay. So this is the first war. Second war, 1749 to 54. Second war mainly happened because of foreign interference. Foreign interference in succession of native rulers. The reason for the second war was foreign interference in the succession of native rulers. Okay. Two positions got vacant, and there were two aspirants for every position. For position of Nizam of Hyderabad, there was Nasir Jung and Muzaffar Jung, and for position of Nawab of Carnatic, there was Muhammad Ali and Chanda Sahib. Okay. And foreigners got interfered, Britishers and French. So British started supporting Nasir Jung and Muhammad Ali. French started supporting Muzaffar Jung and Chanda Sahib. So in the initial stages of the war, French were dominant. Outcome, initially French were dominant. Eventually, British dominated French. Eventually, British dominated French. Treaty of Madras was signed. Treaty of Madras was signed. And the French governor in India, Dupleix, was recalled. He was taken back to France. French governor Dupleix was recalled and was taken back to France. Okay. Initially when I sold, French dominated. It means Muzaffar Jung became the Nizam and Chanda Sahib became the Nawab. But later both of them were killed and British started dominating. Finally the war ended with Treaty of Madras. And in Treaty of Madras, British told French, all these wars, it is happening because of Dupleix, call him back. If Dupleix is not there, we can focus on trade, we can make a lot of profits in India. Call him back. So Dupleix was recalled. And now, without Dupleix, French in India was weak. It was one difference. It was the only one difference between French and British. It was the only one who was in a position to counter British dominance in India. Okay. So when he was recalled, the path for British dominance became very clear. It was the one person standing between British dominance in India. That was Dupleix. When he was recalled, that's all. Finally, Third War. It happened in India from 1758 to 60, but people say 56 to 63 because the reason was the 7 years war between British and France for sake of Canada. Both of them were fighting for Canada. They fought something called as 7 years war. But when the war started, it did not start in India. The war in India started in 1758. The war in India ended in 1760. Okay. Finally, British dominated the French. There was something called as Battle of Vandivash, 1760. French rule in India ended and they were limited to only some areas. In India. Pondicherry, you all know, today it is a UT. Karaikal, it is in again Tamil Nadu. Mahe, it is in Kerala. Yanam, it is in Andhra. So, this was the thing. They were given only these areas. As per Treaty of Paris, 1763. British won the war, French got defeated. French lost. Canada also. India also. Because of this war. Okay. And I want you to read about one small battle. Battle of Swali or Suwali. Okay. Who fought? What was the consequence? Okay. See, when so many powers are fighting, you don't see Portuguese anywhere. British and French fought. British and Dutch fought. Why Britishers did not fight with Portuguese? The answer is this. Portuguese already accepted. They knew the strength of British. They decided, Guru, we are not going to step out of Goa. If we step out, maybe we will lose Goa also. Therefore, they confined themselves to Goa after this battle. Battle of Swali. Naval battle between British and Portuguese. After this, Portuguese confined themselves to Goa. Okay. Diu, Daman, Salsette, Bassein, some small key areas. Goa was their biggest territory. Okay. So this is what confined them to Goa. So find out when did it happen, what was the trigger point. When and reason. Find out. Outcome I already told you. Portuguese realized the British naval dominance. They confined themselves to Goa. And what made British dominant over all these European powers? What made them dominant? Write down reasons for British dominance in India. The UPSC will not ask you the facts. They will ask you this type of questions. Okay, whatever I am going to dictate now, they might ask you this. They will not ask you third Carnatic War, second Carnatic War, when it was fought, what was the outcome. But they can ask you the reasons for British dominance. Okay, first point, trade advantage. Trade advantage. What was the trade advantage? In bracket, dastak. Did any others have dastak? Did any others enjoy that kind of privilege? Only British. Therefore, they were making lots of profits through trade. Okay. Second point, efficient leadership. Efficient leadership. Stable support. Stable support from the government. In bracket, this was the major difference between French and British. Okay. The French government did not support the French East India Company because they were corrupt. They always interfered, they made bad decisions like that. For example, Dupleix was called back. Despite knowing his efficiency, his intelligence and all, they called him back. That led to end of French in India. So the French government took bad decisions with regard to the East India Company, but British government did not. Okay. Next point, naval supremacy. Naval supremacy. The British ruled almost the entire world. They dominated the world because they had strong navy. Look at the British colonies. Canada, UK, Ireland, there only. South Africa, Kenya, Zimbabwe, Namibia, Nigeria, etc. India, Sri Lanka, Singapore, Malaysia, Australia, New Zealand. They are in the different corners of the world. But who was the ruler? British. Understood? They were able to control and dominate the entire world with the help of their strong navy. Navy was the big backbone of the British supremacy in the world. Okay. Next point. British East India Company was a public shareholding company. Was a public shareholding company. Therefore, minimal government interference. Minimal government interference. As long as this company gives profit, they'll enjoy the support of the public because it was a public shareholding company. If the company make profit, shareholders will get the profit. So when shareholders get the profit, they'll support the company. Understood? If government tries to interfere, the people will stop the government. Understood? They are enjoying the support of the British public. Fine. Next point. Rightful policies. Rightful and pragmatic policies. Rightful and pragmatic policies. Okay, in bracket, subsidiary alliance, Treaty of Allahabad, subsidiary alliance, Treaty of Allahabad, etc. Next point, strong, efficient and advanced military. In bracket, artillery power, Royal Enfield rifles, disciplined army, artillery power, Royal Enfield rifles, disciplined army, leaders like Robert Clive Cornwallis. That is what made the difference. Right. So now, this will bring us to the end of all these wars, conflict, everything. So we will not think about this also. End of all wars. Two things, as promised, I will give you Anglo-Maratha wars and Anglo-Mysore wars, and even Anglo-Sikh wars in one small table. Okay. And again in the table, we should only be focusing on these aspects. Okay. So what was the reason? What was the outcome? That's all. So this is enough. So now we'll end this wars and 18th century conflicts once and for all. Fine. So now we'll be focusing upon the pre-Congress political organizations, and we'll enter into the national movement. Okay. So the pre-Congress political organizations, some organizations and persons, they are very important because we are nearing 200th anniversary for some, and 2025 200th anniversary of birth anniversary of Dadabhai Nauroji, and 2026 150th foundational anniversary of Indian Association. Okay. And there are a lot of such things, 150th, 200th, 125th, 100th, etc. So keeping all these things in mind, and also keeping the various personalities, places and moments in news, we'll try to cover the freedom movement at the earliest. And while covering the freedom movement, we'll also try to cover the constitutional reforms, and we'll also take up the economic policies or the economic reforms of British. So first, let us enter into this, and when and wherever required, we'll backtrack, we'll try to cover that also. Because when I want to explain you the theory of drain of wealth, obviously I'll have to talk about the various types of land revenue policies, and then only you'll be able to understand that. So as and when required, we'll backtrack and try to understand it. Okay. So we'll take a break. Time is 1:30 now. Break till 2:30, and from 2:30 we'll go up to 5:30 is the mentioned time, but okay, we'll see. Thank you all. And handouts received, no? APEC batch 2 or batch 1 telegram group, official group, it will be posted. If somebody has not received it, ask your friends, take it from them. Okay, Nana Kelbadi. Thank you all.